People often assume that science and paganism are polar opposites, that if you believe in evolution, the Big Bang, or even modern physics, you cannot also be a pagan. I strongly disagree with this notion. The more I have learned about science and the methods of science, the deeper my pagan beliefs and animistic beliefs has become over the years. Not necessarily because science proves the mythology, so to speak, because it really doesn't, but because science answers different questions than the mythologies does. Science is very good at explaining how the world works. Meanwhile, the myths help us to understand what it means to live within the boundaries of the world or the realms. Carl Sagan, the famous astrophysicist, famously said that we are all made of star stuff. And think about that. Every single atom in your body was forged in an ancient star long before world we live on existed, maybe even billions of years ago. The very iron in your blood, the calcium that makes out of your bones, and the oxygen in your lungs. All of these atoms are literally part of the universe becoming aware of itself, you could say. And to me, that isn't cold. It does not lack magic, so to speak. It's sacred, thinking about it. And evolution kind of gives me the same feeling. It doesn't reduce human life and human history and the struggles of humanity. It expands it, actually. And I am not separate from nature, much like you aren't separate from nature. I am one of the expressions of a chain of life that's stretching back billions of years. Initially from a star that exploded or imploded, depending on what theory you like. My ancestors today, they live through me, which I have talked about many times here on Tyrdom. And they do not live through us who are alive today as ghosts, but through literal reincarnation, like to the button literal reincarnation. And they live through us, through our genes, our cultures, our memories and tradition. And life continually becoming life. It's the circle of time, which I have touched upon here before. And modern physics tells a very similar story. It's a story about matter that cannot be destroyed, the second rule of thermodynamics. And it tells a tale of energy only being able to change form. And when we die, our bodies return to the earth, back to the ecosystem. And who knows, maybe stay suspended in Ginnungagap. But the circle continues, and the ancient people did not know the equations behind all of this. This is what modern science gives us today. But they very much so understood the patterns behind it. And they understood that nothing exists alone in this world. Perhaps that is why animism reoccurs in so many cultures throughout the world. And people nowadays, they do their very best to misunderstand what animism is really about. It doesn't really mean that every single stone you see has a soul in that sense. It more, at least to me, is about recognizing that everything on this world and in this life is interconnected at some level, and that it has a relationship to one another, for example. And understanding that the forest is more than timber, and the river is more than water, so to speak. And a mountain is just not a pile of rocks stacked on each other. And science calls all of this ecology, but in the animistic way of looking at life, this intricate connection was understood long time ago, way before the equations of mathematical explorations and organic biology was a thing. And I think that the Norse myths in particular express this beautifully. Usk and Embla, which you might have read about, formed from the very trees on Earth. Not because it necessarily explains the biology behind it, but because it reminds us that we do come from nature, and we do belong to nature, even though it might feel hard to understand that if you live in a big pulsating city. But we are part of nature, we are still part of nature, and we will remain part of nature. And the world tree Yggdrasil tells the same story. Everything is connected, and the roots and the branches, life and death, not as a map of the universe, but a map of the relationships between everything that is living, but also everything that has been alive. And I think that's why we still need myth, and that we still can use myths even with a acceptance of science. Because me personally, I'm a pretty science savvy guy, actually, contrary to belief. But science explains our reality as it is. Not always, but to its best of its capacity, if you will. And myths gives me a way to inhabit this reality in this world. So no, science does not weaken paganism. It strengthens it if you have that type of outlook on it. And the more I learn about the universe, the more sacred it actually becomes to me. And for me, science and paganism is not enemies at all. The one reveals the mechanics of the universe. Meanwhile, the other reminds me that the universe is worth revering, and there's no contradiction between the two. And I actually think that we cannot live in a world that is purely scientific, because we are not wired that way. We are wired to interpret life through our myths and through the stories. Meanwhile, we can use science to make us understand the specifics of life. Okay, folks. So I'm very eager to hear your view on this. And have you, much like me, in the younger years perhaps, had somewhat of a identity crisis, being torn between the myths and the science of it. And sitting here as a ripe, middle-aged man, I have no problem combining the two anymore. Okay. I wish you all a lovely day, and I'll talk to you later. And as usual, Tyrdom out.